never look for motivation from anyone else. I think it's a good thing to be hard on yourself, and not in a toxic way. Have some sort of tunnel vision and to have something motivating you to get through. And with goals comes hard work. Hey guys, it's Tiffany. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Today we're doing a video that's a little different. We're doing a little car chronicles. It's Vlogmas Day 8, so I am trying to pull all of my creativity out of the bag and keep things fresh and different and do things that I might typically not have posted before. But who knows, maybe I'll start posting videos like this moving forward. I believe it was my earlier Vlogmas videos. I talked about a yearly reflection for 2025. At the end of every year, I get into this reflective mode where I'm just contemplating, thinking things through, and just analyzing progress, growth, you know, all the things, right? That's what comes with the year ending. You start reflecting and seeing what you've done great, what you can work on, and how you can move forward for the new year. Even taking positive things from the current year into the next year. With that, so today's video is going to be more of like a big sister advice kind of video. It's going to be 5 things that I would tell my younger self, or 5 things I would tell someone who's in their 20s, right? So these are all things that I have carried throughout my 20s into my 30s. I'm 34 years old, so I can speak on a lot of things, and I feel like I have a lot of experience. I've lived life and I've gone through things, and I have younger siblings. These are things that I would tell and preach to my younger siblings as well. So I thought, why not do a big sister 5 things that I would tell my younger self, or tell someone that's younger than me. 5 things that I would tell someone that's in their 20s. And I think it's still applicable to someone who's in their 30s that is just looking for general advice as well. I think anyone could use this information, but I can only speak on someone who's in their 30s and speak to people who are younger than me. So the first tip, it's important to remember that you are your only motivator, okay? There's no one else in this world that is going to push you as much as you're going to be able to push yourself to get things done. These are all things that I intuitively knew, because these are things that my parents would instill in me. You're the only person that's standing in your way of getting things done. So in essence, you're the only person that can move the needle on things, and you're the only person that can motivate you to do things. You should never look for motivation from anyone else, because when that motivation is gone, at the end of the day, you're sitting with yourself to do the thing. Anything that requires effort or exertion, it's important to remember that you are going to be the person that's responsible for getting the thing done. So looking for someone else to motivate you to get something done is not really going to be in your best interest. I don't think it's fair to place that kind of expectation on others for them to be our sole motivator. It's up to you to realize that only you can make things happen and get things done. So that is my first tip. You are your only motivator, and no one can motivate you to get something done other than yourself. For example, I went to college. I started grad school for my master's when I was 22. Right after I got my bachelor's, I went right into grad school. I landed my first full-time job, working 40, 45, 50 hours a week, and doing online classes in the evening because I couldn't go into classes because I was working full-time. And ain't nobody, and there was no one pushing me to do that other than myself. I was paying it out of my own pocket. Obviously I took out loans, but it was something that I decided to do. I had to get it done. That meant that I had to sacrifice going out a lot. There was just so much sacrifice involved in just that portion of my life. I was from 22 to 25. I think I spent 3 years in grad school on a part-time basis because I couldn't do it full-time, and it was one of the hardest periods of my life because I would get home, I'd be so tired, and I would have to write papers, do discussion boards. It was a lot of work, and I was still, like I said, I was working still had to navigate life as well. So that's just one example of you being your own motivator and not looking for other people to motivate you. I wasn't looking to my then boyfriend, now husband, to motivate me to finish my coursework or to read my articles or to read my textbooks. It was literally all me, because I always kept my eye on the prize. And that goes to my second point, which is to always keep your eyes on the prize, even when things feel unbearable, things might feel just out of reach at the moment. I would tell my younger self, or people who are younger than me, to always have a goal and keep your eye on the prize. And here's why. Just think it's extremely important to have some sort of tunnel vision and to have something motivating you to get through. So whether that be some random arbitrary monetary figure that I want to be a millionaire, or I want to move up in a company to a C-suite level, or I want to be an entrepreneur and make X number of money, or make this kind of impact on the world, whatever the North Star is for you, I think that should be your motivator, and that should be the prize that you're trying to achieve. Will it ever happen overnight? Absolutely not. Right? I feel like in order to stay motivated, you need to have something that you're working towards. We also live in a generation right now where instant gratification is a real thing, and I'm a victim of this too. We're all human, right? So there's going to be moments where you feel like, damn, things aren't moving at the speed that I want to. I'm not getting to the level that I've been dreaming about for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And I think the way that I try to combat that is by realizing and just reflecting and looking back and seeing how far I've come. I think that helps me stay grounded. And at least as long as you're making incremental progress, that in itself should be a gauge, like, oh, okay, I'm doing something right. I'm taking the necessary steps in the right direction. And I think as long as you're making some sort of progress and you can quantify that progress and see that progress, it will make staying focused on the prize a bit easier, even when it might not feel like it's a huge quantum leap. You know what I mean? As long as you know that small efforts are being made and you're taking the steps towards the prize, I feel like that keeps me grounded and makes me stay a bit more. Keeping that in mind helps me stay a bit more focused and get out of the idea of instant gratification when I'm able to just reflect and see where I was 2 years ago and where I've come 2 years later. But yeah, always have something that you're working on. So always keep your eye on the prize. Tip number 3 is have tunnel vision, but also have flexibility. I'm very type A, and it's very important to have goals and visions and tunnel vision, right? But life is still life, and things are still going to happen, and the plan A that you might had set out for yourself might not always come to fruition, right? So I always say have a plan, but also be flexible in the event that you have to do plan B, C, or D. And just make sure those plans are also plans that you would be happy with regardless. I think this tip is very important because I think when you're in your 20s, you're very ambitious, you're a go-getter, you have your goals, your visions, your dreams. You might be, sometimes being too tunnel vision might be to your own detriment because you can't see any of the other options that are out there. You might not, sometimes being too tunnel vision will blind you from seeing other opportunities that might be right in front of you. So have goals, have dreams, have tunnel vision, but also have just a smidge of flexibility in case you might need to be flexible, because life does happen, the unexpected happens, and the last thing you want to do is to beat yourself up because you weren't able to do something exactly how you planned it. And sometimes deviating from the plan that you had set in your mind might ultimately you might realize, you know what, maybe plan A is something that you might have wanted when you were 27, right? But by the time you're 29 or 30, plan B or plan C might be a bit better. So my advice to you, if you're in your late 20s, even if you're in your 30s, just always have some level of flexibility, because you just never know where life might take you. So, you know when they say don't put your eggs all in one basket, this is that perfect scenario. You don't want to put everything in one basket. You want to have different baskets that you can possibly tap into, depending on, you know, you really never know where life will take you. So it's important to, you know, just be a little flexible. Just be a little flexible. Tip number 4 is you should be hard on yourself. And here's why. I grew up in the era of like the girl boss millennial generation. I'm a millennial. I'm 34, obviously. I remember when I graduated in 2013 with my bachelor's. So 2014 onward, like that was a pivotal time in my life, because I was getting into the workforce. That's when I really decided I wanted to start embarking on like a side hustle, learning about entrepreneurship, what that might look like, how that might fit into my own lifestyle and schedule while I work full time and went to school. I've always been someone that's been extremely ambitious. I knew what I wanted. When I have an idea, I'm gonna execute it. I think it's a good thing to be hard on yourself, and not in a toxic way. I feel like when you put a fire under your own self, it is a means of motivating you to get to the next level. If there's something that you want, you have to go out and get it yourself. You have to be aggressive. You have to be hard on yourself. You have to, being ambitious, you have to hold yourself accountable. And I think being hard on yourself is a way for you to hold yourself accountable. The only way that you'll be successful in life is if you're hard on yourself, if you push yourself. Like I said, there's no one out here responsible for being your motivator. You have to motivate yourself. So I would implore you to really be that person that is pushing yourself to get up early, to meet your goals, to meet your ambitions, to motivate yourself. You should be very hard on yourself when it comes to the things that you want. Like I said, not in a toxic way, but in a way that's holding yourself accountable. If you said you're going to do something, you need to get up and do it. If you know if you said you're going to wake up early, if you said you're going to put in X number of hours of doing something, if you said you are going to do X, Y, or Z this year, you need to hold yourself accountable to do it. So being hard on yourself is essentially holding yourself accountable. And to sum this all up, number 5 is, with consistent effort, just remember that it's all going to work out. I'll never forget when I got my first job out of college. I was so excited, but I was so broke. But it was, you know, it's a rite of passage that everyone needs to go through. But if I could go back to my younger self, I would just tell myself, listen, like, if you're ambitious and you're goal oriented and you keep your eye on the prize, I would go back to that younger girl and tell myself, like, listen, everything that you want, everything is going to work out for you. It's all going to work out for you. You are a go-getter, you're a hard worker, and you're ambitious, and you pretty much do everything that you say. You hold yourself accountable. And these have always been traits that I had for myself. So yeah, I would go back to my younger self and tell myself, like, listen, it's all going to work out. If you continue stacking the bricks the way in which you're doing, in 10 years you're going to be perfectly fine. Because back then I was really on like survival mode. I was working so hard. I've always just worked so hard, and I feel like fast forward, 10 years later, 10, 11, 12 years later, I can look back and say, you know what, I can see the fruit of my labor. I can see everything that I can see all the progress that I've made, up until this point. So I would go back to my younger self, or I would tell a younger person, as long as you stay consistent, and it's all with consistency. Like, you have to maintain some level of consistency with the things that you're doing. You can't just try to manifest your way into success. With manifestation And with goals comes hard work. So I would go back and tell my younger self, listen, if you're doing all the hard work, you're stacking the bricks, you're doing all the necessary steps to manifest the life that you want, you're going to be fine, because you're doing all the consistent work, you're making all the necessary effort. So yeah, you'll be perfectly fine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this car chronicles of the things that I would tell my younger self, the things I would tell myself if I were in my 20s, or if you're someone in your 20s and you're just looking for some source of inspiration. I hope you guys find this video inspiring. And just remember that with anything that we want in life, we have to just put in the work, put in the effort, and put in the dedication and hold ourselves accountable, because we know what we're not doing. You know, if we have goals, we know what it is. We all know what we have to do. It's just a matter that a lot of us just don't do it. We are our only judge, right? We know the level of work that we're putting in for something, the effort, the exertion. Only we're able to gauge that. So as long as you're able to hold yourself accountable, put in the effort, and do all the necessary things to reach your goals, you will be perfectly fine. But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if anything that I mentioned to you today resonated with you, and I will talk to you guys next time. But before you go, don't forget to like the video, comment if you resonated, and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the things. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.